Well, hello, my valued listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Living in Your Power. I'm your host, Dr. Marlene Greenlee, and I'm truly grateful that you're spending this time with me today. Now, before we move forward, I want to acknowledge something meaningful about this week. Just a few days ago, many celebrated Valentine's Day, a time often centered around love. And today, we observe President's Day, a time set aside to reflect on leadership, legacy, and responsibility. And when you think about it, both love and leadership require something deeply important: integrity. So Valentine's Day may highlight affection and connection, but real love, whether in relationships, families, or communities, requires healthy boundaries and emotional maturity. And President's Day invites us to reflect on those who have led before us, reminding us that leadership is not just about position or power, but about character, courage, and accountability. So both love and leadership ask us to show up fully with empathy, clarity, and wisdom. Which brings us directly into today's conversation as we continue our February series exploring what it truly means to lead with heart, not from exhaustion, guilt, or overextension, but from wisdom, faith, and emotional integrity. We remain grounded in our theme, leading with heart, compassion, courage, and connection. And today's episode, the third in our February series, is entitled Boundaries, Empathy, and Emotional Integrity. So let's get started. Now, for many leaders, especially those who care deeply, boundaries can feel uncomfortable. We worry that setting limits will make us appear uncaring. We fear disappointing others. And we tell ourselves that saying yes is just part of leadership. But here's the truth. Boundaries are not barriers. They are expressions of integrity. When you lack boundaries, dear listeners, you begin to lead from depletion instead of discernment. You start responding out of obligation rather than alignment. Now, Jesus modeled boundaries clearly. He withdrew from crowds. He rested. He prayed. He said no, even when needs were present. So think on this. Now, Mark 1:35 tells us, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Now, if Jesus, in all his compassion, honored boundaries, we are not exempt. Boundaries protect your capacity to lead well. Empathy allows us to feel with others. It helps us connect, understand, and respond with care. But empathy without boundaries becomes emotional over-identification. And when we carry what was never meant for us to hold, burnout follows. In my own leadership journey, I've learned that being emphatic does not mean absorbing everyone else's emotions, struggles, or expectations. God calls us to be compassionate, not consumed. Galatians 6:5 reminds us, for each one should carry their own load. There's a difference between helping someone carry their burden and taking it on as your own. And emotional integrity means knowing where you end and someone else begins. So now, if you decide to lead with heart while protecting your well-being, here are 3 ways to practice emotional integrity. First, know your limits and honor them. I'm going to say that again. Know your limits and honor them. Your limits are not flaws. They are, in fact, guides. And when you ignore them, resentment builds. And when you honor them, clarity increases. Second, respond with compassion, not rescue. Not every struggle requires you to fix it. You're not the fixer. And sometimes the most compassionate response is presence, not problem solving. And third, practice honest communication. Boundaries are most effective when communicated with clarity and kindness. You can say no without guilt. And you can be firm without being harsh. And you can also lead with heart and still protect your peace. So let's reflect on Proverbs 25:28, which says, like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. Boundaries are the walls that protect your emotional and spiritual health. So here's your empowerment prompt for this week. I want you to take time to reflect on these questions. Where am I overextending myself emotionally? What boundary is God inviting me to strengthen or establish? And how can I practice empathy without abandoning myself? I'm going to repeat those 3 questions. Now I want you to take time again to reflect on these questions. Where am I overextending myself emotionally? What boundary is God inviting me to strengthen or establish? And how can I practice empathy without abandoning myself? And be honest with your answers, because boundaries begin with self-awareness. So in closing today, my friends, I want you to remember that leading with heart does not mean leading without limits. Emotional integrity allows you to show up fully without losing yourself in the process. When your boundaries are clear, dear listeners, your compassion becomes sustainable. So I want to thank you again for joining me today on episode 3 in our February series, Leading with Heart, Compassion, Courage, and Connection. And next week, we'll close out this month with a powerful conversation entitled Courageous Leadership that Honors the Whole Person. So you've been listening to Living in Your Power, and again, I am Dr. Marlene Greenleaf. So until next time, dear listeners, I want you to continue to live boldly in your power today. And if it gets tough, just breathe. You still got the strength to rise. So until next time, continue to live in your power.